How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of Frankenstein. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. Well, we've warned you.
You have been warned. Welcome back to Frankenstein Minute, the podcast that dissects the universal Frankenstein film series minute by minute. I'm Tom Lang.
And I'm Bill Evenson. Today we're talking about minute 60 of the original Frankenstein. We're coming up, we're getting to the climax
getting
now.
Down to the wire.
We're getting down to the wire, as you will.
Rounding the clubhouse turn.
That's right. Well, to be honest, there's an actual sort of metaphor for these films, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because this minute, as so many minutes do, has a nice little cutting off point.
Right.
Starts with a guy saying, "Light your torches and go."
Yeah.
And we'll see this every time.
Yeah.
Well, I had to think about it. I don't think it happens every time. I don't think anyone. I don't think a torch-wielding mob is in Abbott and Costello.
No, that's the only
That's
one.
the one exception.
Only one I could think of that doesn't have a mob.
But yeah, this is one of the things I've talked about multiple times, and this is the best time to talk about it. So if I have talked about it before, try and pretend I didn't.
Yeah, just ignore that.
So many times throughout my life, I've watched this film series in one go. You know, you don't probably sit and watch the whole thing, but you maybe watch 3 or 4 of them,
Yeah.
or you'll turn it on and you'll be doing other stuff, and you
Right.
come back to it. And like I said, I have a playlist and I play the whole thing through. And that's one of the things that you get a lot of.
Yeah.
Is torch-wielding mobs.
villagers.
Always come back to it. It's an essential component. It is
It
maybe the essential component because even how the monster is portrayed, you might think might be an essential component of the Frankenstein films. Not really.
Necessarily, because
Not
it's
really.
portrayed differently from film to film.
Not just differently from film to film, but after a few films, he might as well not even be in the damn
show
thing.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that's it's kind of interesting about the notion of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
We're talking about a film series that we love, and we talk a lot about the monster and about Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And as these films go on, that's going to become less important.
Less and less, yeah.
But I still love those movies, and
Right.
we'll have plenty more to talk about.
There's stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
there's
plenty
a
more
lot
to talk about.
Yes.
But that part's going to sort of diminish as time goes on, but you're not going to lose. One of the
the-
things you're not going to lose
All the way up to
is
young-
a torch-wielding mob.
all the way up to Young Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
It has become such almost a cliche or a trope or whatever you want to call it. When you think of a Frankenstein film, I think most people will imagine the torch-wielding mob. I think
You're right, and I that's amazing, sort of.
It's become such an ingrained image of the angry mob with their torches, and
I guess that's probably because of what's going to happen over the next 10 minutes.
Yeah,
It's so well done, and it's so important.
and I think it's an easy out for a lot of things, because the next 2 films, while they have their torch-wielding mob, they're not sort of the machine of the creature's destruction or bring about the ending. This one it does, and it sets the standard, but by the time you get to some of the sequels, it becomes a very easy way to wrap everything up. Certainly by the 2 House films, because they both end, I believe, identically, and they might even have some of the same footage of Chaney and Strange stumbling around in a burning laboratory.
Yeah, you've got me thinking about it, though. It's interesting when you talk about the engine of his destruction. Technically, he doesn't actually get killed by the torch-wielding mob specifically, other than what we assume to be the case in this film, which is then undone, because he doesn't get killed.
Wait, what?
Oh, whoa,
He doesn't?
spoilers!
He doesn't?
Yeah, well, we'll see. Okay, you'll have to cut that part out. Yeah, by the time we get to Son of Frankenstein, there's a torch-wielding mob.
Yep.
But that
They're
doesn't
not-
even matter. There might as well not be.
They're not instrumental in bringing about the climax.
Yeah, that something else happens that gets rid of the monster. But then when you get
But
to
by the time you get
Ghost,
to Ghost, it's at the beginning.
Yep, but yes, yeah, you're right. I guess by the end, that's not what's happening. But at the end, there's something similar to that that's happening. And it's close.
Right.
By the time you get to Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, it's a different thing, but it's the same idea.
Basically.
But then there's quicksand. There's any number of things that might happen.
Right, but
But
it's always certainly at the end of the 2 House films. There's the mob converging on the castle.
Right.
You see it in cartoons, comic books.
Yeah.
It's a very stereotypical image, shorthand for this kind of film.
And it has no, doesn't happen in the book?
No.
Doesn't seem to happen in the book?
No.
So this is where it starts?
So I don't know if there was much of an
Light your torches and go.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a silent horror film that it happens in. Kind of Phantom, but they don't have torches. They just sort of chase him through Paris.
Yep.
I mean, it's mob vigilante justice. That happens all the time. We talk about. So it's not necessarily
is about it.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily a new idea, but I think the visual aspect of it here is kind of new, and again became such a huge part of what people see as this kind of film.
You know, I don't know what kids draw now. Like when you were a kid,
even,
you would draw something.
Do
like
they
I would
even draw anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't. There wouldn't be anything to draw with or on anymore. But I'm picturing some kid going to the movie theater in 1931 and then showing up for school the next day. On the back of his textbook, there's drawn a torch-wielding mob coming after a flat-headed green dude. No, I don't think he was. No, back to the green thing, but I'm sure no one thought to think of him as green.
I'm curious where that got started.
Yeah, I wonder where that would have even started.
I don't know if it was the marketing when they first started to do the Don Post rubber masks.
Okay.
If that then became...
What's that, the 50s by then or later?
That would be the late 50s, early 60s.
Might be.
Yeah, because like in any of the artwork...
Maybe the early, I was going to say the early movie posters, if they're in color.
Movie posters are these sort of like I said, the yellowish kind of flesh color.
Yeah,
but then they'll vary from that, and like even normal people will be green on some of these posters, so it's really hard to gauge from that.
Maybe Dracula was green all along. Yeah, that's the problem.
Apparently Lugosi's makeup was.
Yeah, true. Can't understate the can't overstate. I keep saying can't understate. You can understate.
I can't.
The importance of the torch-wielding mob.
No.
So then as we pull back from the sort of podium, now I assume we're not at the same place we were before, where we weren't sure if it was the burgomaster's house or not.
Yeah, I think it's the same place.
Then I have an answer. I didn't realize we were in the same location.
Yeah.
Because as they pull back, there's a sign on the wall on the left and a sign on the wall on the right.
Yeah,
and they have German words.
See them earlier. Did you look them up?
I looked up to the best of my ability.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to try and construct this.
No, I'm going to leave it alone.
The left one seems to say "Ein the Haus," "You Gen Bar," and then there's stuff hanging in front of it. I guess from the festivities. Garland, thank you. Wachtposten. The sign on the right says "Standesamt Forstverwaltung." Johann Gamblepuddy. That's what it sounds like to me. As I'm doing it, I'm doing it. Fortress of Ulm. Of Ulm. We could try and do that. You think we could get through all the way through?
I used to know it, yeah.
You used to know it?
I used to have
Johann Gamblepuddy.
Monty Python's Big Red Book.
Yep.
Had it in there, the whole thing written out. So yeah,
Johann Gamblepuddy.
I was that demented.
I can't do any of it.
That I was that demented that I took the time
to bother.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you say you're that demented. Let me think if I can do it. Can you do the world's most dangerous joke in German?
Oh, probably not anymore. But
I used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
How about I do know the one that Hitler came up with that they play over the radio. Well, wait, I know I can do it now. Let me think about it. Two peanuts. Und one was assaulted. Ho, 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 ho. I forgot the other. Assaulted.
There's a little pause.
Peanut. All right. It's
morphed into Monty Python.
Yeah, it's Monty Python Minute. We could probably do that.
Well,
they just posted. Okay, so we're talking about this. Listeners will know this already, so we might want to cut this out. But
no, it's all right.
This year is the 50th anniversary of Monty Python, which I didn't think it was. I thought technically they got together the year before, but it's fine. They're tweeting about it and hinting that there's going to be a big release coming up.
Yeah.
And they're putting out like Tom Baker's episodes of Doctor Who on Blu-ray, and they're up-resing these older.
Yeah.
They've found some way to make them better quality.
Yeah.
Obviously, it isn't going to be Blu-ray quality because it's shot on video.
Right.
But they probably got some of the film. I don't know. Anyways, I'm thinking there's going to be a Blu-ray release of the original series this year.
I would think it's long overdue.
I'm going to buy it. Anyway, okay.
It gets down to how many times do I got to buy the same fucking thing over and over again.
It's just insane. It shouldn't ever end.
I have in my house, I have 9 copies of this film that we're discussing. 9 copies of it.
Okay, so you got your actual film. You've got an 8mm.
Yeah.
Is that
now we're
okay.
more.
Super 8 or whatever.
Super 8, yeah.
Okay. you've got Rob Zombie's soundtrack.
Yeah.
Did you count that one?
No, I didn't count that either. We're probably looking at.
You got the book. I don't know.
See,
Anyway, you got the
I'm
script.
talking about like DVD, VHS, Blu-ray.
Yeah, well, they got the script. That should theoretically count.
So
if
we're
you're a
probably
Doctor
looking
Who
at a
fan, you count that kind of thing because of those
dozen.
novelizations.
Got a couple dozen then.
All right, so how am I ever going to get this back on track?
I have no
Auf
idea.
Ulm. So what happens is, here's what I'm able to get out of it. Wacht posten is watching post. So it's like a watch post.
Okay.
So that's where the sign on the left ends in Wacht posten. The stuff
Okay.
before that, I couldn't get enough words out of it behind the garlands to
yeah.
make any sense. The one on the right, Standesamt Forstverwaltung, is Office of Forest Administration. Worth waiting for, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Long way to go to find the stores closed.
So that's kind of this podcast.
yeah, it's kind of how this is played out.
Kind of how people feel when I open my mouth.
That's all right.
But so on the left, watch post.
yeah, I did look that. I looked that up.
Okay, and then
I
the
couldn't-
Office
I
of
couldn't-
Forest
I couldn't
Administration.
read the stuff above it very well.
I can't read it very well.
I actually looked in the book that I have of the frame enlargements
Oh,
to
did you?
see if it was any clearer, but no.
It's, I can imagine it's still blocked.
It's still
presumably.
blocked, and it's even fuzzier because, I'm looking at a Blu-ray versus a
Yeah, it's
16
still-
millimeter
yeah.
or 35 millimeter frame blow up.
So later this minute, there's another sign, and I couldn't read it. I think it's just names,
I think
maybe.
yeah.
It's like a pub. It looks like it's probably
yeah,
a pub
I think
or
they're
something.
I think they're
Or it
just
could
signs.
be a cobbler. I have no idea what
They're
it
just
is.
they're just business signs.
Yeah, it's just a business
Coming up
sign.
in a few minutes, there's a road sign that I've been trying to read.
Okay,
Like at a crossroads.
can work on that.
Yeah.
But if it's anything like this
just-
amazing revelation,
I assume they were just sort of generic German signs that are probably left from All Quiet on the Western Front, as far as that goes.
so they're
'Cause a lot of
not
these
meant to
sets
have
are-
any meaning.
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
they look Germanic, so I'll throw it up there.
Yeah, that's true.
Who's
This
gonna-
certainly
who's
doesn't
gonna-
add anything here.
Who's going to be foolish enough
It's a notice.
to write down what they say and then look it up?
And then use Google Translate to try and figure
Try
it
to
out.
Figure it out, yeah.
Actually, initially it was a little harder because every word I would enter in, it would give me an answer. And I started to notice, that's what it is in Norwegian. That's what it is in Dutch.
Oh.
But if I enter it in and tell it German, then I got a meaning for each word.
Okay.
Because my first thought was, maybe it is Dutch, but no,
yeah.
German. Anyway, enough about the signs. What on earth is that ungodly noise? It's the dogs barking. But
Yes.
that's another thing I've noticed when I again keep bringing it up when I play this as a
Just have it
soundtrack to
sort
my
of
life.
as
Is
background,
if
yeah.
you're not paying attention, suddenly you are, because that's an ungodly noise. What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a Dachshund and a Basset Hound.
Okay.
And prior, I've also had Beagle. So
Okay,
I've
so-
always had hounds, and that's how they bark.
That's right. That's why I mentioned
That
it.
sound does not
In
elicit
any way-
any kind of alarm from me at all anymore.
When you get home from this long day at Belong
I
Dead
will be
Studios, you will be
the
greeted
exact
by that
sound
sound.
you just did. You
My
want to do it again?
Goodness, I.
We go off the charts here too, so
Oh,
sorry.
that's
for
true.
everybody
Sorry about
listening
that.
with
We'll
earbuds.
clip it a bit. I see. Okay, all right. Well, Luckily, I've got
Luckily
some
you
more
got
here.
because we
Okay.
pretty much talked about the signs, which is
The
that
signs,
I
the
had
dogs,
that and the dog. Well, no, just
the
fact that-
torches.
That it becomes a cliche.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've got women huddling in doorways.
Oh yeah.
One woman wraps her head up with her scarf, and she's also drying her eyes.
Yes. wiping a
Another
tear.
woman grabs her child, who is
Draws-
too far out into the where
Thoroughfare,
he
yeah.
might, I guess, get trampled or burned by the thing.
Yeah.
Pulls him back in, dries her eyes, and then at one point it looks like almost like she's going to try to dry his eyes. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Some women opened these window
Those
shutters.
windows,
There's no glass
There's
in
no
these
planes
windows.
of glass. There's
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
They just open these shutters, and the shutters are interesting because there's sections missing that are in the shape of a heart.
Yeah.
Like a Valentine heart, not
Right.
like a human heart.
Obviously.
Yeah.
That would be great.
That would be something.
Yeah.
But they throw open these shutters in surprise. They
Yeah.
look out in surprise, like, what's going on out here?
Yeah.
There seems to be one of either thing happening here, which is either that surprise at all this noise, these
Right.
ungodly sound of these hounds, or the sound of the mob, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Or just huddling in panic because, basically what's happening is all the women in the town are cowering.
Yeah.
As all the men in the town are walking down the street with torches, yelling incoherently.
Yeah, in a bloodthirsty rage.
Bloodthirsty rage and gesturing wildly. Yelling incoherently and gesturing wildly. No, you guys can't see me, but
when was the last time in real life that you actually gestured
wildly? I'm a bit of a gesturing guy, but
I talk about
wildly
hands,
a little bit.
I don't think I've gestured wildly in some time.
So what's striking about that? Well, the whole thing is a picture, obviously, but one of the things that's striking is 3 people are not gesturing. 3 men are not yelling incoherently or gesturing wildly. Right. Ludwig, Henry, and the Burgomaster, which is, I guess, good. If you're going to have...
You're going to be leading a bloodthirsty mob, you want some level heads
some level heads at the front.
Yeah.
It is what it is what you want. Yeah. It is how you want that to go. They in fact look determined, and that's fine. So this is like this is how things go in Ingolstadt.
Well, it's not only in Ingolstadt. We've been rewatching some of the Ken Burns documentaries. They were in the middle of the West.
I suppose
from like the '90s, which I'd watched then, but
probably the South in the '60s.
Oh no, I was the documentary was made in the 90s. How quickly these mobs form.
Well, so I mean, by the South in the '60s, right?
Well, in the South in the '60s, but also the Old West.
Yeah.
Mormons were kind of treated like the monster is here.
Really? Mormons, huh?
Oh, yeah, Mormons and any minority. Anybody who was, that still unfortunately is the case.
Yeah.
Speaking as a middle-aged white guy, I apologize for every middle-aged white guy that's come before me.
Yes, exactly. And that's what we have here.
We have
a bunch of middle-aged white guys yelling incoherently and gesturing wildly. One thing that I find interesting about that is what we've talked about how James Whale might have felt about that.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've talked about, and I've kind of walked back a little bit, is about how interesting it must have been for him to be, as we've referred to him, openly gay in 1931. And a friend
corrected us,
sort of corrected me and said, might not have been as bad as you think. At that time, it was considered the guy was in Hollywood, and at that time that was maybe the only place the only place on earth you could be openly gay. So there was something to that, but has to shape your thinking, especially growing up in.
Well, it certainly grew up in a very
rough and tumble,
low class, dirty. Yeah,
didn't grow up in Hollywood. Let's put it that way.
No.
Yeah. So that can color, you would have to think, how you choose to portray 3 middle-aged white guys leading a pack of bloodthirsty mob, yelling incoherently and gesturing wildly.
Yeah.
But it only, in this case, literally torch-wielding.
I have a name for this episode now, too.
Yelling incoherently and gesturing wildly. Is that what I wrote? I did.
I don't know.
Yelling incoherently and gesturing wildly.
There we go.
That's right. So we're in the home stretch. We have all the components we need.
Yep.
Where's the monster? Don't even know.
Don't know.
He walked away shaking his hands above his head.
Say, I'm
out of here. I don't know what I'm going to do now.
Yeah. No, we'll find out shortly, but there we go.
There we go. We did it.